I do that,
Yeah.
but that's all right. Okay. All right. I think. All right. We'll figure it out later. Okay. How are you, Jen?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Good. It's been a minute since we chatted.
I
You
know.
yeah, I know. You're moving and shaking. Did you climb another mountain?
I maybe I climbed Aconcagua in January.
Oh my gosh.
I know in Argentina. Yeah. It was a beast because
Whoa.
it's supposed to take like 18 to 21 days because you have to acclimate your body.
Uh-huh.
And so I got there and my grandma passed away. And so my mom was like, "Hey, you need to get back for this funeral." And I'm like, "Okay. I don't want to come all the way back down here and figure all this out. And this climbing season's almost done." So I'm like, "We're just going to go for it."
Yeah.
And the guides are like, "Well, you got to tell us if you're feeling good or not." I'm like, I live at altitude. I knew I was going to push faster. So I've been kind of training for that. So we did that mountain in 5 days.
Five. Whoa.
Yeah, I know. It was not fun. Like, it was one of
Oh
those
my
lessons where
gosh.
I'm like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Because what would have been an enjoyable, amazing experience was like a death march.
Really?
Yeah, totally. I was like, oh my God, why did I think I could do this? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Like the whole
The
way.
whole time
Oh, yeah.
you're just like second guessing it?
I'm like die. I'm like, I can't breathe. My body can't operate in the lack of oxygen. I have to go
Yeah.
slower than a turtle. Like I'm just like, this is crazy. But I got it done. I'm like, well, hey, you know what? I'm back to normal. So here we are.
Yeah, there you go. What was the motivation for climbing that one?
I have two more mountains and I'll have another world record as the first one to climb all the first and seconds. And so that one's the highest point in South America. And I've already done the second highest there.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were going for
Yeah,
the
another one.
first highest.
Well, I figured why not? I was so close.
Yeah, that's true. Because I remember when you were going for the second world record, the second summit's world record. There was some like you had to climb like a couple extra ones because it was because of how certain regions of the world determined what continent was theirs and which was the highest.
Yeah. Yeah. So it took
That's
9
crazy.
mountains to get that world record. And
Nine.
then I'm like, a lot of the places I'd climb the highest point anyways, just to acclimate for the second highest point.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I'm climbing Denali in May, and Denali's the highest point in North America. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, well, then I only have one mountain left if I don't do like it was just like I'm doing this. Like it's
You
all
just gotta
set
go.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I tell you
Okay.
what, I'm like really excited to be out of the mountains for a little bit after this.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you got two more. You got the
Yeah.
one in. You got one in May already, and then what's the last one?
It's in Russia. And so I was
Oh
kind
my
of waiting to
gosh.
see like when Russia was going to be okay. And I just saw like the other day, they're like, Moscow's thinking of opening direct flights again from the United States. I'm like, well, if
Oh
they're
wow.
doing that, then we're invited and I'm going to go climb that mountain.
And you're like, I'm in,
Yeah,
dude.
that's an invitation. I heard invitation. I'm
Yeah.
coming.
That's crazy. Okay, I do want to ask you about this.
Yeah.
Because I've renewed the podcast. I really enjoy talking about mindset because one of the things that I was going through as a sales trainer was every time, every time we got into a sales conversation, somebody was like, I need help with sales training. And we were going to start going down that path to see if like we wanted to work together. Um, it always came down to mindset. Like if I felt like if I was getting frustrated, like so for example, they would be like, "Oh, pricing is the hardest objection." And I'm like, "Well, it's about value." And they're like, "No, you don't understand. Like it's all about pricing." And I'm like, "I know what you're telling me, but I'm saying like I'm a professional like salesperson and sales trainer and I'm telling you that that's just not accurate." And I found out that it was really like a mindset thing. Like
Yes.
they had a problem with the pricing
Right.
and it was just weird how when our mindset's not right, it kind of affects other people. So
Well, everything's wrong, right?
yeah,
Like if we view it as wrong, it doesn't matter if it's right. It's wrong to us, so it's wrong. Right? So, yeah. No, it's interesting. It's like, "So what about this pricing are you struggling with? Like, let's work through that piece
Yeah.
first." And they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, that mirror on me, I don't know about that."
Yeah. Well, it's true, and we would have that conversation, and I remember doing a sales training one time, and I kinda just like, it was an epiphany because I used to make this joke. When I first started in sales, we had this leader or sorry, I worked for this company, they went through, like, 6 general managers in, like, 6 years. It was, like,
Oh,
very unorthodox, and I just remember learning something about leadership then, which was, like, if you blame everybody else, you'll never get at the root of the problem. And my joke then was like, if you have, if I had 5 ex-wives, that's probably not the other gender, right? Like
yeah,
if if you're getting pressing objection on every single one, like it's probably not your prospects. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
Look at self, perhaps. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
so
the funny thing about, like,
yeah, go ahead.
sales and
Go ahead.
everything too, right? When you're climbing mountains, like, I had a conversation the other day, and I'm like, I'm using that concept of ABC, always be closing. I'm
Mhm.
always closing myself because almost every other step, I'm like, "Why am I here? What am I doing? Like, I don't
Yeah.
belong here. I paid to be here. Like, people don't belong up here. This was silly. Let's go home."
Yeah.
And it's like I have to constantly sell myself to stay in the game and continue to climb.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I was going to ask you about this. So your goal was 7-second summits.
Yep.
You mapped all those out,
Yeah.
and then you get the news that like, hey, the Guinness is like, hey, nah, like actually, what's your thought process? What are you thinking when that's happening?
Well, you go through a range, right? Like you have to have this cycle. So first you're like, F you, I don't believe you. And you want to like test, you're like, that's not true. That's, like, you're wrong. You know,
Yeah.
like that's going to
Yeah.
get anywhere. But it does feel good to
Right.
allow yourself to have that moment of, you're wrong, not me. And
Hmm.
then once you get past that, you're like, okay, if there's some people out there that feel this way, I'm going to satisfy that because I kind of understand Indonesia, right? Indonesia is this dispute. Is it part of Asia or is it part of Australia? If it's part of Australia, then the second highest point is in Indonesia. If it's part of Asia, it's not because K2 is the second highest point in the world.
Yeah.
And so, like, that one I could get, right? I understood it. Russia not being part of Europe and me needing to climb a mountain in Europe in case Russia wasn't part of Europe. I mean, that's a stretch. Like that's a lot to ask for me. But the fact that the
Yeah.
mountain was in Switzerland, I'm like, you don't have to twist my arm that hard to go to Switzerland. So like
Sure.
we'll do this. Like I'm good for this. We're fine.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. I
But no,
like
like
it.
at first I was like angry, like 100% angry.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to win. So how do I turn this to my power? And then I love traveling. I love meeting new cultures. I love meeting new people. So I had to just keep focusing on like what was the positive of all of this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I get like another media hit from it, right? Like, oh, just kidding. We're coming back. Here's some more.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that's a big tip, a mindset tip. Is
Yeah.
just like you've got to be. If there's no way if there's I don't know, you've reached this point of no return basically, which is like, dude, if I want this is it. I got no choice. I either quit or I got to keep going.
Yeah, and either be grumpy about it or you find a way to enjoy it because either way you're getting it done. So
Yeah.
the challenge isn't like refuting the system. The challenge is, okay, I'm doing it. How do we enjoy it?
Yeah. How do you now is enjoying it like a prerequisite? Like is that something that you have to do?
I mean, I think endurance comes from joy, right?
Ooh,
Like
okay.
it's so much easier to do something for a long period of time if you're having fun.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm
Okay.
working out and I'm having a good time listening to good music, that workout flies. I'm like, and if I'm not, like, I'm still doing the workout, but it's a different experience. And
Mhm.
so if I can control the experience, which is how I show up, I
Yeah.
challenge you to do that because it changes the game.
Yeah, and I think I, when we talk about mindset, there's so much that goes into it. But and obviously there's books written on this and things like that. But what are your tips? You wrote the book on it. You wrote Break Proof.
Yeah.
That's your flagship book. I loved it. I've read it a couple times. I got it on Audible. I've got two on my shelf. Um, but for you, you've you wrote the book, you finished the 7 second summits. Now you're on to the first one. Has anything changed from when you wrote the book to now? Or maybe not changed, but like you got more insight on?
Yeah. I have more confidence. And that more confidence, like when I set out to set the world record, I hadn't slept in a tent. So I was like, we'll see. But at least I'm doing something that's really hard and cool. So if I fail, people are like, well, we thought you would. So whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it wasn't this like, oh, poor girl. I was like, hey, she tried. She was in the arena. Like, good job.
Yeah.
Um, so like that's how I started it. When I was halfway through it, I was like, man, this might like actually happen. Like, just to let you know, like I'm making some progress here. Like, watch out. And
Yeah.
then I'm like the last mountain. I'm like, oh my gosh, this went so fast. I can't believe it's done. I'm like sad, like all
Yeah.
those kinds of feelings. And so I think the biggest lesson for me was like, if you set your mind to go do something,
Yeah.
consider it done. So if you're going to consider it done, now go from done to where you are today. And how do you enjoy the journey?
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, I'm always like, how am I making this fun or joyful or whatever? Like when I give speeches, I'll tell everybody, like, okay, everybody get comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk for the next hour and I need you comfortable. And they'll be like, ha ha. And then I'm like, okay, everybody find a way to get 10% more comfortable. And people move. I'm like,
Yeah.
I just told you to get comfortable a second
Yes.
ago,
Yes. Yes.
and because I gave you permission to get 10% more comfortable, you figured out how to do that? Like, we have to, like, check in with ourselves and be like, "Okay, I told myself this was gonna be fun. What can
Yeah.
I do to make it, like, 10% more fun?"
That's interesting. Okay.
And it
It
changes
really
it.
is. It really is this idea that like if you're gonna have a good mindset, like um what are we doing?
Yeah.
There's this arc of knowledge kind of thing that I've discovered. Somebody smarter than me is probably gonna know what this is. But I've just noticed that at the beginning, like when you're first in something and you go ask an expert, like somebody who's like been through it and done it, and they're like, so sales is that's my jam. So that's my story. I go, I'm in sales. I asked this like 30-year sales vet. I'm like, what's the secret to sales? He's like, dude, just have fun. Like, why are you taking it so seriously? And I'm like, and then you start, oh, okay, and then you have a little bit of success. And you get up to the top of this where you're like reading books and you're like, oh my gosh, this is actually deeper. And then you learn everything you can. And then on the other side, like if somebody asked me today, like, how do you really get in sales? I'm like, dude, don't take it seriously, man. Just go have fun. Like, go be,
Isn't
you know
it?
what I mean?
It is, it's like that arc. I mean, like, when I was in sales and I was cold calling, right? Like, I was like
Yeah.
Wolf of Wall Street, cold calling in a room with a phone book, and, like, I had to do it, I didn't have a choice, so
Yeah.
I bought one of those, like, little gu I don't even think you can buy them anymore because I actually tried to buy them the other day. You like, those guns that had those, like, sponge balls at the end that were
Oh, wow.
attached by a string, so
Yeah.
that, like, when you shot it, you could, like, pull the string back and get the ball back, and so
Yeah.
when someone hung up on me and was a jerk, I shot him. I'm like, "Okay, we're both even, next call." Right? And it was like
Yeah.
it made it fun, so it allowed me to continue on.
Yeah. You kind of like gamify. There's that big thing in like
Yeah,
courses and stuff. It's like, how do we gamify it? How do we make it fun? And
yeah,
it's like, yeah, there is something to be said about that though. I think there's genuinely something to be said about like what's like a key to a growth mindset. There's something to be said about finding a way to make it like enjoyable for you. Like be happy. How can you be happy? Right?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think, but I love that confidence term. How do you like build confidence? Like what's the key there?
doing the thing, right?
Yeah, dude.
You know, so for me, I'll bring you to a point in the mountain. So I had the car wreck, right? The car wreck was this big life-changing moment for me because I realized I wasn't afraid of death. I was afraid of not living. And so now I
Mm,
could rewrite like what life meant. And when I was hanging upside down in the car and this individual came running towards me and he peeled back the windshield, we caught eyes and he's like, "Are you okay?" He'd been yelling it a few times and I didn't respond. And I finally was like, "Oh, that guy's talking to me." Like, okay,
yeah,
am I okay? And looking at his facial expression, I was like, "I'm not okay." And I was so afraid to look at my body because I didn't want to see what I thought was like, I thought I was amputated or gonna die and bleed out. I just didn't want to look. And
yeah,
so instead of looking, I closed my eyes and I wiggled my fingers and toes. like, I can feel my fingers and toes. Like, it was the best. Like, I was like, I can feel my fingers. Like, I was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
happy because I'm like, I'm not paralyzed and I'm alive and
Right.
I'm gonna be okay. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And when you're climbing mountains, like you're on like cliff edges, you're on these like ladders crossing crevasses, like all these uber scary things. And when I get into those really scary moments, I close my eyes and I wiggle my fingers and toes. And I'm like, I can feel my fingers and toes. Everything else that's going on right now is a story. And is that story
Ooh.
like keeping me stuck or is it giving me permission to move forward? And I think that's a huge mindset trick because you have to stop the narrative to decide if
Yes.
it's working for you or against you.
Oh
And
my
having
gosh.
that
Yeah.
interrupt, I don't know what it is for you, but for me, it's wiggling my fingers and toes to remind myself that, hey, I can feel my fingers and toes. I get to rewrite where I'm at from right here on out.
Yeah. I love that. I I remember learning that principle, that idea of like the story that we tell ourselves
Yeah.
from, it was like it's an old Buddhist story of the guy who gets shot with an arrow. And he gets shot with an arrow and his friends are around him and he's like, "Hey, hold on." Like his friends are trying to help him and he's like, "Hey, like why did I get shot with an arrow?" And they're like, "No, we need," he's like, "Wait, hold on. Like just tell me what happened. Like why did I get and it's like, and then eventually, so I'm paraphrasing, but eventually he dies. And so then the Buddhist will say like, pain is the first arrow, suffering is the second arrow, and you get to choose the second arrow.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and it's the story that you tell yourself. So it's not what happened, it's the story that you told yourself about what happened.
Yeah, no. And like for me, like I was in the car accident.
Yeah,
I could have been stuck on that on repeat forever and ever and
yeah,
ever, right? I was in this horrible car accident. I'm afraid to drive on the road. I don't want to, all the things that can go with that. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not my story. My
right.
story is this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to me. And it's a line in the sand. And like, it's my choice to make it that. And so now
Yeah,
I have to start living that choice.
yeah, yeah, no, and that's, and I mean, there's whole like therapy models around that, right? Like, what is that, like CBT, or like,
Yeah.
what, I think there's another one, but it's just this idea of like rewriting the narrative. You don't have to like lie to yourself, but you don't have to keep telling yourself, you don't have
You don't
to.
have to relive the past. Like, let it
Yeah,
be what it is and keep going.
yeah. And Ryan Holiday, like some of the Stoics would say, like you're looking for the third thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, so like when you give someone a gift, you like, don't look for the third thing. She's like, just give a gift to give a gift,
Yeah.
like just experience it, and then that's it. Like there's no third thing. There's just
Yeah.
that, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I once received I'll never forget this. So I bought this house on the lake from this beautiful family and they sold it to me. I gave them the lowest bid, but they wanted the house to go to a family and they didn't need the money, so they sold it to me. And when I moved in, like the landscaping was old and needed to be updated or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, next year or something like that, we'll get that in the budget. And they came over to say, you know what, we bought you a landscaper for the year and we want you to put the landscaping the way that you want it. And I'm like,
Oh,
what? I have no way of paying this back. Like most things you receive, you're like in your head automatically calculating, like, how do I make this even so I don't owe
yeah,
anybody anything? And
yeah,
I'm like, I cannot receive this. This is too big of a gift. I am so sorry. I have no way of paying this back. I appreciate your generosity. And they're like, the point of the gift is for the giver to feel the magnitude of the receiver. And the fact that you're so grateful to receive is the greatest gift you could ever give us. It's priceless.
yeah.
And I like, oh my gosh, I want people to feel the way I feel right now as often as possible. I can't wait till I'm in a position to be able to do this for others because what an amazing feeling to be in that receiving mode.
Yeah, and that's so yeah.
Yeah.
There is something about an experience like that too. Being on both ends is very
Both ends
unique.
is magic.
Yeah,
Yes,
it is magical.
100%. Don't take that from somebody and, and like
Yeah,
let the gift be the gift for
yeah,
both of you.
yeah. No, I know, and the more that I think about, being in like a good mindset. So you've read the Carol Dweck book of like fixed and growth mindset, stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I think that, there is that danger of the arc, right? which is like you can learn so much about it and then overanalyze things. But I really enjoy that. Like this, if mindset to me was one thing, it'd be like gratitude probably is up there.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, gratitude's probably up there for that one. Like
Yeah.
even
Like
in resilience.
especially in resilience, like
Yeah.
every day, every morning, every night, no matter what happens during that day, I'm like, God, I thank you for this day.
Yeah.
Like I am. I'm just grateful for the day. Like whatever happened, it's better than not having it. So God, I thank you
Yeah.
for this day.
Yeah. 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 And that gets you pretty far. So like gratitude, I heard is pro social. So like if you're feeling gratitude, it's going to force you outward,
Yep.
and that's just going to give you more experiences to just reflect on your mindset. I think a lot of people get into a rut when they're like closed off. But when you've gone to these speaking events and you've interacted with people on this topic, resilience and mindset, like what is there a common culprit that stops people from having a better mindset or being a little more resilient?
Yeah. Like you just said on it, really isolation.
Yeah.
Like people take on these big goals, right? And they think they're going to do it alone. And big mountains take big teams, and big struggles take big teams, and big conversations take big love and big support to be able to have the container to do the thing. When I was climbing Everest, we had these ladder crossings, okay, and I thought I was ready for it. I was not. And so I get up to this, like everybody goes on the team. So I'm like the only human on the other side. And like I don't want to be watched. I don't want to be like, yeah, like look at my fear is like so big that everybody gets to see it and laugh at
Yeah.
me and try to tell me I'm okay. And like all the things. And so
Yeah.
I'm like embarrassed in front of everybody and it's fears growing or whatever. And finally we really realized like the only thing that was going to get me across that ladder is I took a step. And I can like still almost cry to this day because everybody on the other side of that ladder started yelling, "Step, step,
Oh.
step," so loud that I couldn't even think anything else. And I just started taking those steps, crying, fearful, shaking, swallowing my heart, taking the steps because they were my courage. They were my strength. They were
Yeah.
the voice I needed to hear so that I could get across that ladder. And when I got across, we hugged, we celebrated, we screamed, we cheered. It was like the 4th of July and Christmas in one day. And it was because I had these people with me, seeing where I was and knowing where I wanted to go and like yelling the movement I needed to take so I could have the courage to do it.
Oh wow. I don't think I've heard that story before.
Yeah, like so
That's
like when we're
crazy.
going through a hard time, what do? Like we naturally like coil up. Like I don't want anybody to know. And like that's when everybody needs to know because that's when you need support.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's true. And you know what? Now that you say that, it does make sense. Like when I go back and I think of people that I've interacted with who've been stuck in a poor mindset. They really do just think they're all alone. They have no context, right? Like there's
Right.
nothing for them to gauge it against, to
Right, like,
benchmark
everybody
against.
here is, like, the first time this has ever happened in the whole history of the entire world. Like, "Yep, I get it, totally just you, good
Yeah.
job."
Yeah, and that makes sense because whenever we go into, like, certain sales conversations, they're like, "Yeah, but mine is just so different. You would have no idea." And I'm like, "Okay."
You're right,
You know?
you're right.
Like,
You can
there's
win
just
that if you want to.
yeah.
You can be right or you could be wrong and get help. Like, and
Yeah.
here's I was just at a mastermind last week or 2 weeks ago now, and Jordan Peterson came in to talk to the group. And
Oh,
I know
heck
he's a
yeah.
controversial subject, but he has, like, some good nuggets out there. And I tell you what, he said in his speech, um, "It takes courage to be optimistic."
Yeah.
And I freaking love that because that's a mindset thing, right? Like it is easy to be pessimistic and depressed and cut people out and woe is me. It takes courage to like lean into like there's a brighter future ahead and I'm a part of it and let's go make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's that old there's that old saying, like, uh, you know, I can't remember how it goes, but it's something about, like, finding comfort in the bottom of the barrel,
Yeah.
right? Like, you can, like it's very comfortable, right? I
Right.
think it was from that whole I don't know, I think it's debunked now, but like when lobsters would pull them, people trying to get out back down, and then so there's comfort in the bottom of the barrel.
Yep.
But yeah, it's definitely easier, right? Like the water cooler is full all the time because
All the
it's very
time.
easy
It's
to,
very
to
easy.
go there and start bitching.
Yeah, totally. Doesn't
By
change
the way,
it.
I love
It's
Jordan
easy.
Peterson. His book is right there. His new one is right there.
Yeah, he's fabulous, and you meet
I
him in
like him a lot.
person, and you're like, "This guy is." I mean, he gets asked a question, and he closes his eyes for a second. He's very calculated in how he responds, and then the words that pour out of that man, I mean, it's magic how he can connect thoughts and weave them in and take you on this adventure and bring you back home. You're like,
Yeah.
"Wow, that just happened."
I mean, I just strip all of that away because it's yeah, and this is another mindset thing too. Is like uh you take someone like Jordan Peterson for example. Like I really enjoy a lot of his stuff. I mean, and then we all do. It happens to all of us. We get roped into something crazy that we're passionate like I especially me, I have ADHD. I get roped into something crazy and then people judge you off that,
Yeah,
thing and you're just like, "Yeah, but hold on, dude. Like he's actually there's a lot of good things." We
totally.
can talk about the other stuff at a different time, but
Right, exactly, like,
if
we
you've
can
never
poke
read his book,
anybody
you can't
apart,
talk to
okay,
me.
let's be real, like, anybody can be poked apart. Let's just focus on building each other up and leaning into what unites us instead of what separates us.
And that is a mindset thing though, right? Like
It is.
people choose to you can choose to see all the problems in the world or you can choose to see
Find
them
a
as
way to
like,
see each other, yeah.
yeah, it's just like way to go. And when I'm talking to my son, he's in wrestling and so like I'm probably more emotional than he is because he's 6, he just wants to have fun. But
Yeah,
I'm
right.
like looking at all of these as like life lessons and he's just 6 and he wants to have fun. And I think there's a great lesson in there for both of us. Like me as a dad, it's like it's just have fun. But for him it's like um there these first times where like he's getting into situations that has no clue and like I can't do anything.
Right. You just have to hold the space.
You just gotta let him go. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is gonna suck, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
dude,
good luck.
you're gonna learn, that's not true.
But when I talk to his club team, I say that like because we have some high schoolers in there, we have some young adults in there, and I'm just like, you guys just need to like if you're the sum of the 5 people around you, um, you just need to surround yourself with people who see solutions and not
Right,
problems.
definitely.
Those are the worst. They're just so frustrating to deal with. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
if everything's a problem, I don't need you
Yeah, thanks.
here.
I agree.
but I've also been in the situation where it feels like everything's a problem. How do you snap out of it?
Well, snapping helps because it, like,
Yeah,
makes you
yeah,
feel like a different thing. But you like
yeah.
it's like a basketball game, right? So you go to bed
Yeah,
they have timeouts. They have timeouts because momentum starts going the wrong direction, and they need to break the momentum of play to, like, get a chance to get grip again and, like, start changing the scoreboard. So in life, like,
yeah,
if you're, like, get momentum down this negative path or things, like, feel impossible or hard or whatever, like, stop the train. Like, give yourself a timeout. Then, like, just and
yeah,
take it, and then, like,
yeah,
pull away from it, like, maybe it's a walk around the building, maybe it's a call to a friend, maybe it's a, "We're gonna look at this tomorrow." I don't know, but I know, like, a lot of times when we can just break the energy of whatever's doing, and then come
yeah.
back to it and be like, "Okay, what's the teeniest, tiniest thing I can do to build momentum in the other direction?" And do that thing.
Yeah, just like I know Frozen, the Disney and Pixar came out with all these movies lately that it just felt like a therapy session, you know what I
Oh
mean?
my god, I know, the lessons are like, "Wow," and you're looking
You're
at
like,
kids, I'm like, "Do you
dude,
like this? Did you pick that up?" Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, your kids are like, yeah, the kids are like, this is so cool. And I'm like, I'm like, that's a good lesson though. It's like just the next right thing. That's all you got to do right now. We
Yep,
don't have to win. We
yeah.
just got
What voice in your head is talking? Don't give it the microphone, give it to
yeah.
somebody else in there.
I love that because it really just comes back to some of the same things of like the story that you tell yourself. I love the idea of taking a time out though. I think it's perfect. It's
Yeah,
like, hold on, time out.
time out.
Because as soon as you recognize it, that's the thing though. As soon as you recognize it, that's when I think you got to call it because
Yeah, and, like, when you're not good at recognizing it because we're these creatures that go on autopilot, like, I have trigger meditations, and so for me, every single time I touch a doorknob, that's a trigger for me to take 3 deep breaths. And during those 3 deep breaths, I'm like reconnecting to myself. Am I doing what I want to do? Am I doing just this out of habit? Am I doing this
Hmm.
out of intention? And like learning to interrupt yourself to ask these questions
Hmm.
allows you to like build this mindset that can start from a stop, that can check in and pivot when they need to, not
Hmm.
just in these extreme environments, but you train that in normal so that when extreme comes, you're like, oh, this is what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that helps a ton too, by the way. I think, um, and that's why like having a coach or like having a mentor, and I'm not talking about like paying tens of thousands of dollars for a coach or mentor, but having somebody who can be like, hey, like I've been here before, like, and I, by the way, I've been here before and I'm with you, and like we're fine, we're gonna get through this, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
it's
always positioning you and your friend or you and your partner and you and whoever against the problem instead of the problem between you.
yeah, yeah, I
Right? Like
just heard that today.
establishing that, like when I get like when we have a serious thing going on, like with my son decided to like be a little poop on his grades. And I'm like, okay, listen, you and I, we're gonna sit here because the problem is the grades. The problem isn't you. Right?
Right.
So, like, we're gonna look at that and be like, "That grade is not what we want to have reflecting of us if we wanna get into college you desired you wanted to go to. So,
Hmm.
what can we do or what can you do to change that grade?" So they don't like then you're on the like, the side of the solution creation and put the problem over there, and that's a mindset, right? Like,
Yeah.
is like, we are human, we make mistakes, we're not bad.
Hmm.
The mistake might be bad, but we're not bad.
Yeah, yeah, and then, and I think that that takes away a lot of the shame and stuff
Yeah.
that comes with it. Like, no, dude, and yeah, and then having somebody there too that it's like, look, I was a teenage boy. We all got, you know what I mean? Like, we all
Right.
got D's. Okay,
Yep. Yep.
it's fine.
Yep, we're good. Like, this
You know
isn't
what I mean? Like,
anymore.
it's not a big deal. Like, but we have to fix it. Like, we're not abdicating the accountability, but
Right.
like, it's also not the end of the world. Like, we're gonna be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we're gonna put the
I agree.
work in, and it's gonna change because that's really all you need. It's kind of like what they did with like some of the weight loss stuff.
Ah,
We were like blaming all these things, and then GLP-1s come out, and you're like, actually, it was we were right the whole time, which was
sure.
like,
Yeah.
like
Funny that
you
insulin
just
resistance.
calories in, calories out.
That's odd that it worked out that way, but here we are.
But you know, that's a really extreme but funny example. I like
Yeah. I love it.
it.
Good.
But yeah, but it's that idea that like you have somebody there who can walk you through this and not take it so like, okay, yeah, we're fine. It's
Well,
okay.
yeah, and, like, let's be real. Practice doesn't make perfect.
Mhm.
Perfect practice does, right? So, like, if I've never played golf and I go pick up a golf club and I think I'm gonna teach myself how to play golf,
Uh,
ha. But if I hire a coach that's like, "Hey, Jen, here's how you hold it. Here's how you swing. Keep your head on the ball, blah, 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 blah." Like, that's
yeah.
perfect practice, which will make me a perfect player someday in theory. But if I just went out there and did the same thing over and over and over again and never got an outside opinion of an expert in the space, I'm not gonna get great at golf. Like, the chances are slim to none.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like yeah, when I was growing up it was iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
It was like we sharpen each other, right? Like
Yep.
yeah, and that is that there's a lot that goes into that, right? It's like humility. You kind of got to bite the bullet and be like, "Hey, yep, we need help. We're going to go get somebody." And then they come in and but it's always just amazing how quickly, this is I've been on both ends of this where I've like, I've hired a mentor or a consultant to come in, and I've been the consultant that comes in, and it's like, "All right, we go through the all the pre-qualification, and we write all this up, and then we actually get in the weeds." And I remember having it happen to me, and then experiencing it from the other side, but like just this little thing, I was like, oh, that's what's wrong.
Right.
And they're like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, just, and then it's like it blows up, and I'm like, sorry that you had to pay me whatever,
Yeah,
that
but
that was
right,
it.
like, they're not paying you for that hour, they're paying you for, like, the 20,000,000 hours you have to be able to diagnose that problem in that fast of a spot. So
Yeah,
there you
and that
go.
happened to me too, by the way. I'm like, "Dude, it's not that easy." And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, it is." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"All right, get out of here, dude, you freaking jerk."
that's awesome. I
You
love it.
turd. But it's like, but it's also, there's also, and this is a different conversation, but there's the perception of value, right? Like
Yep.
if somebody off the street came in and just turned it, you'd be like, no. And then, but if you are invested in it and you're like, willing, like, hey, this has to work because it has to. I think the, reception's a little different, but
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Cause I had people who would like, I'll teach you sales for free. It's actually really easy. And then they never do it. And then you're like, okay, well, now it's 5 grand. And then they're like, wow, this is the best I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they have to be vested, and when they're
Yeah,
vested,
you
they make
gotta
a
like,
shift. Like,
you
I
gotta
have
go.
to make this work, so if I have to make it work, that's a different energy, and that
Yeah.
energy gets shit done. Sorry for swearing, that energy
No,
gets
that's
shit
great.
done.
But that's also a good place to be.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary, but like, hey, we have to make this work. Isn't necessarily a bad place to be.
No, yeah, there's a lot of greatness that's come out of that moment in people's lives.
Yeah, and I totally love that. Okay. What as far as like resilience goes,
Yeah,
there's this conversation, and this is kind of like where, we might tail off, but there's this conversation about resilience, and so there's a point of resilience where like there is something actively working against you, but eventually you have to take accountability. I don't know where that line is, but that's a question I've always had when I've like studied is a very like harsh word. But like when I've studied resilience, there's something that happens, right? Like there's a lot of things working against you, but you still have to get it done. And so
yeah,
I'm just curious like how you navigate that. So like one like stark example, because
please,
International Women's Day was yesterday, right? But like women in business,
yeah,
right? Especially in like a very male dominated hierarchy like thing, there is a lot of things working against you, but I know successful salespeople who are women. I know actually I know more successful women in sales than I do men in sales. But like,
yeah,
whereas you know what I mean. So they made it work, even though there was a lot working against them. And I'm just curious, like, how you
because
navigate that.
Because I think what you focus on grows. And I know these are like the most simple concept and everybody wants this like novel new thing to give them permission to look at it differently. But like
Yeah,
I was a female in sales. I was in financial service sales. Okay. Less than 3% of the industry is female.
yeah,
I didn't even notice. Like that's how like clueless I was. I'm like, I have bills to pay. Like I need to make this phone call. Like I don't care what gender I am.
yeah,
Someone's gonna buy someday. And so like I think if you're focused on like why am I the odd one out or why am I not like why am I okay, well then you're going to keep exaggerating that. Like if you just say like I'm this person doing this thing, I think it's your biggest advantage. Like guess what? There's not when there's only 3% of the women in sales and your name's Jen, it's a lot better than being John. Right? Like, "Hey, I saw you at the conference. My name's Jen." I was like one of 2 Jens there, right? Not 1,000 Johns. This is
yeah.
perfect. So, like, you can always use something to be an excuse or use something to be part of your power, and it's your choice on how you use that. And so, I do think that we just need to keep making progress, and then that progress, like, keeps moving the needle, and then things shift and everything goes. But
Yeah.
yeah, for me, I was in that industry that was, not predominantly female, and it was to my advantage all day long.
Was that just like, yeah, and I know, okay, so you've mentioned this twice, like maybe unintentionally, but it's this idea that, I interviewed a bunch of entrepreneurs, obviously like yourself, and there was one common thread.
Yeah.
And it's super interesting, and it's probably not written in any book, but it's like delusion. Like when they start, it's
You're
delusion.
1,000% delusional. I'm not kidding you. Like my
Yeah.
biggest sale in my career, my life, and I can't believe I'm saying this on camera because I don't want it to haunt me,
Yeah.
was I was like 25. They thought I was 40 because I went to the store. I'm like, listen, I need to look old. Buy me an outfit that makes me look old.
Yeah.
Okay. So like I like wore this like really mature outfit that made me look old. And
Yeah.
I was listening to Busta Rhymes in my car, like blasting, right? Like I'm like rap music. Like I'm like,
Yes.
yeah. And I'm like, okay, buckle up, put on those shoes, walk into that room and own that space because I needed that energy of,
Yeah.
like, I own the space that I got from the rap music to go into the
Yeah.
meeting and close the deal.
Yeah.
Um, So, yeah, like, it's not these you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah,
it's
totally,
whatever
totally.
you need to do to close the deal, and no one needs to know.
That's so funny. But I no, I it's this I've just seen it so much. Is like, how did you start this company? Oh, we had no idea.
No
Well,
idea.
like we had no idea it was going to blow up. We were just actually starting a problem. And I remember this guy. I was interviewing, and he was like, "Yeah, I actually made a joke to my friend. Like, wouldn't it be funny if somebody paid us money for this?" And then my friend was like, "Hey, haha, yeah, let's try it." And that's like how.
I know.
And
Yeah,
I'm like,
I mean,
you guys were really just.
I was at this mastermind, and it was either people in their 50s or in their 20s, and I'm, like, looking at the guys on top, I was like, "What'd you guys do?" And, like, the
Yeah,
stuff they came up with that they, like, hit the moon with, I'm like, "Heck yeah." He's like, "Yeah, we had
yeah,
no idea. We had no idea. We were just like" then if I had, like, my business that went well, it
yeah,
was like, that was not the plan. It was, like, 15 pivots to the left, and we hit the door, and we ran with it, and it was a home run.
yeah. But yes, I love that. I think there is something special b about having that kind of mindset of like this optimism of like this delusional optimism of just like, "Oh yeah,
Well,
for sure."
and you're
Like,
delusional about it because you're having fun with it, and you're
yeah,
not,
yeah.
like, mad that you're not doing something because you don't have the expectation of that yet,
Right. Right.
and because you're in this, like, fluid state of, like, play and creation, when opportunities show up, you're like, "Let's swing. Let's see what
Yeah.
happens when we swing. Maybe we'll hit a home run."
Well, but I think there is something beautiful about that. It's like so many times, if I've also met people, and this is why I believe this is one of the threads of like successful people, is like, because I've also met them, and I'd be like, hey, if you knew everything that you knew right now about this business,
You wouldn't do
like,
it.
yeah, and everybody says that. They're like, no way, dude. Like,
Yeah.
or they'll say like, yeah, if I was telling somebody to start a business, it definitely wouldn't be this one. That was stupid. We were crazy. Like, nobody showed us the skeletons in the closet, and then by the time we found out they were there, it was too late.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, Mike Posner did a, TED Talk
Oh
recently.
yeah,
And it's a fabulous TED Talk, so everybody should go watch it. And one of his, like, key points in the TED Talk was, not every great idea is crazy, or no, wait, not every crazy idea is great, but every great idea started crazy.
yeah,
And I think that's so true.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm at the point now where I've talked to so many entrepreneurs on and off my show, and I used to hear crazy ideas and be like, "Dude, that's stupid." Like, no. And now I'm like thinking, I'm like, "Okay, well, dude, shit, it might work. I don't know, man." You know
Yeah,
what, dude? I don't know.
I don't know. Someone's selling 5-hour energy drinks at the gas station making a fortune, so who am I to judge?
I
Because
go,
that's
"Yes.
garbage and poison that they're putting in their body, yet
Yeah."
it's selling like crazy.
I go, "Listen, I learned it in the car business, which was like there's an ass for every seat." So now I tell people that. I go, "All right, dude, I don't know, man. Go get it, dude."
That's awesome, I love it.
Yeah, because anyway, yeah, but I think you're right there. Um, just a little bit of delusion, a little bit of, and then just go take your first step. You'll be fine. Like, I couldn't imagine doing that, like, especially Everest, because I think you told a story about that. The one of the ladders, like, um, whatever. I don't know the one. I think right before you summit, it's like the deadliest spot.
Okay. Let me
And
think.
what did you say? I don't know. I can't remember. But it's
I
like
don't
right before you summit, you have to go over this cliff.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, so on Everest, right before you summit, you have this thing called the Hillary Step.
Hillary step, yes.
Yeah, so that Hillary Step that rented space in my life ever since I'm like, "I'm gonna climb Everest," and it was like, "Oh my god, the Hillary Step, that's gonna be the only reason why you don't summit," and it's, like, right below the summit, and so,
Uh-huh.
like, the entire climb, you're like, "Okay, so far I'm okay, but what about that Hillary Step? Because
And
that's
to
the
explain what the Hillary step is, like, why was it so nerve-wracking?
it's the crux move, okay? Like, it's like it's the scary part, it's at altitude, you're exposed, whatever else, and that's what you're told and whatever. The year that I did Everest, the
Uh-huh.
Hillary Step was covered in snow, and I didn't even know I crossed it, okay? I was so mad. It was like
That's
someone
crazy.
robbed me of my experience because I'm like, "No, no, no, you don't understand." I would have to
Yeah.
say thousands of hours of my life have been dedicated to how I was gonna solve that problem that never
Yeah.
existed.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
It's
You're like, "Oh,"
crazy.
but if you ask somebody, right, they're like, "No, that's oh my gosh." You're like, no, dude, it was covered with snow. We didn't even know it was there. Like,
Yeah,
go
I
climb
was, like,
Everest. You're
almost
fine.
in tears of how frustrated I was with myself for the whole moment, yes.
Oh my gosh. And that's by the way, I think I told someone, I forgot it was called the Hillary step, but I told someone that story the other day. Like,
Yeah.
imagine having that whole experience. Like, that's what whoever said, was it Mark Twain or someone said, like, worrying means you just suffer twice. You know what I mean?
Oh my
Like,
god, yeah,
I was like, that is the
or in my
perfect example.
case, the worrying was the only suffering, and I wore it out, I promise you that. Like,
What?
but now it
Yeah.
gives me perspective, like, anytime somebody, like, says something, I'm always like, "You know what? The Hillary step was garbage, there was nothing, so I'm gonna just pretend that's nothing, and if it shows up big or whatever, we'll be fine." But yeah, I mean, it's a thing.
That's that's insane. And yeah, I don't know. I think you just go, right? It's just like because you psych yourself out of it, but then you just deal with the problem. Like if it would have been exposed, we'll just deal with it when we get there, man. Like
Yeah, yeah,
people have summited Everest before. Like we've got this, man. We'll
we've
figure it
been
out.
here, I can do this, we're good.
Oh my gosh. Well, Jen, I like really appreciate your time.
I
And
love it.
our conversations always
I
fly
have
too
the
fast.
best time with you, we have a great
Yeah.
time. Yeah, it's perfect,
They
awesome.
always fly. But okay. Tell everybody you got your book Break Proof. Anything else that you want to like where can they find you, follow you, all that good stuff?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. JenDrummond.com, on Instagram or LinkedIn, the Jen Drummond. Would love to have you reach out, say hi. Let's connect.
All right, deal. Thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, cool. That was it.
Awesome.
So sweet. I love that.